All right. I thought I would discuss modern U.S. politics and geopolitics globally and so on. Um, so basically, there's two different fronts. There's the home front and there's the international front. And basically, I've got two analogies: trench warfare and the Peloponnesian War, with USA being the Athenian League, Russia being Sparta, and China being Persia, basically. And the third world being the third world, including Europe, in this case. Um, and Thebes being basically the Middle East or Africa or something like that, preferably Middle East, basically, or something. Um, as a whole, something that can defeat the doctrines of the USA as Athens and Thebes being powerful militarily on foot, and Sparta being militarily powerful on foot too, and generally being kind of land oriented in some fashion, and so on. Um, and obviously this doesn't quite line up because the U.S. is the most powerful military on Earth. But it's about the costs associated with going to war with these groups, not their set battle piece power, is how I'm assessing this. Now, the home front. It's really simple. Trump is establishing a trench line. He's baiting the zealot holy war enemies of Trumpism to attack the trench line. He holds his ground. He bombards their position or attacks through rhetoric and propaganda. They're not innocent of using rhetoric and propaganda either, but you know what I mean. They rally and then they attack physically. Lawful federal agents doing lawful orders, and then Trump he uses it to squeeze a little bit, and that's the bombard part and the counterattack part to take the first trench line, and then he stops and reinforces and rinse and repeat until he self-defends his way to victory. It's a very conservative approach, not necessarily right-wing, but conservative in the sense of like conserving. You conserve your strength kind of conservative. This will not necessarily lead to Nazism or anything like that. It's a very squeeze as hard as you have to until they stop biting your hand and then let go kind of approach. Um, um, you know, it's it's a very control-oriented approach about controlling, not necessarily right off the bat exterminating out of the blue through an ambush. It's a very honest approach because it's saying, like, this is what we want. If you fight us, we're going to squeeze you. And if you don't fight us, we're going to do what we want within reason to half the population at least. And then you can live on with your day, and we think things will be better for us and for you. Now, on the geopolitical front, it's more of the Athenian League versus Sparta and Thebes and Persia kind of approach, where China is Persia, Russia is Sparta, Thebes is the Middle East, and the third world is the third world in Europe, Africa and Europe, basically, and maybe South America. Now, there's a Thucydides trap in this, in which, well, it's a little more complicated than just the Peloponnesian War, in a sense, because the USA is currently going through an insurrection-style situation, and Trump is regaining power for the conservative movement as he, internally to the country, as he's squeezing geopolitically and so on, while also being the premier world military power that no one else can defeat, land, sea, or air. So it's not quite 1-to-1. It's not Athens. He's not. The USA is not Athens in the sense of having just a navy, and Russia is not Sparta in the way of having the superior military power on land. But at the same time, the instability of the USA is a thing. And basically, what reminded me of the Peloponnesian War the most is the Athenian League, Athens, gave promises of protection to various city-states or countries or whatever, and basically said either you provide ships or tribute, taxes, and we'll provide the ships for the Navy to defend our common interests, as Athens is the main power of that league or alliance. And that is sort of it's sort of related in a way to the USA putting the most money into NATO so that the European countries can use the peace dividends to fund welfare states and so on. And so on. But you notice how Trump is demanding that they spend their fair share on their own military. At the same time, there's a remarkable intolerance in Trump of strong positions in Europe and Canada that might stand against him. And the dumbing down emphasis of hard power over soft power is part of this, but it's not just like terror versus wimpiness. There is a proper approach that Europe can take to be allied to the USA still against Russia and China, without being weak. And there's a way out of all these problems of the Thucydides trap and Peloponnesian War, the Athenian League's tyranny, and so on, which is, it's very simple. The right can dictate that the left have no power and cannot resist the USA, and a return to national self-interest, protecting your borders, protecting your demographics, protecting your economic interests as a nation, is in fact the only way, and you need the support of the citizenry and the patriots and so on, so you need to return to right-wing politics and free markets to have the manpower, industrial, and financial support in non-tyrannized and chaotic and poor countries, so that we can basically choose to either go independent and flourish, or ally with the USA as stronger partners, but with slightly more independence than before, with the total reliance on the USA funding NATO so that we can put our NATO dollars into welfare bucks. It requires a change of tack in propaganda style. The USA is not necessarily a reliable ally in the fight against wokeism in our own countries. I think one of the big problems is we've seen that's kind of been the case. The USA is perfectly happy with us being woke and weak so that it can exploit us directly, or it's okay with us being strong and nationalistic and right-wing because we would be strong allies that they don't have to mind the business of. It's only a question of which one's better for us and which one do we want. and to accurately assess the dynamic and then play along to our strengths and so on. So it's not quite a full tyrannization, which the left is saying it is, but it's not quite a full patriots unite, patriots of the world unite, you have nothing to lose but your chains. It's not either or. It could be either or, and Trump is fine with either or, but whatever one is going to be, he's going to play to his favor. He wins either way, we lose either way. Well, sorry, no. He wins it either way. We win one way and not the other, and Russia and China lose either way. So it's like, okay, we can either play along a certain way and win, or we can play along a different way and lose, and so on. Both the countries themselves of Europe and Canada and the right-wing movements. So we're basically, the right wing needs to kind of take an arm's length approach to Trump while embracing some of the doctrines of Trumpism internally to our country, and so on. A return to the feudal kingdom style after the collapse of the Roman Empire, and so on, basically. And that means also getting away from the Holy Roman Empire, European Union stuff, for the most part. Because unlike the Holy Roman Empire, the European Union does not defend against Islam or anything like that, and its incursions into the Europeans, or Africa's. We want to be the feudal kingdoms of Europe, not the Italian states, after the collapse of Rome. Yeah, so basically the way out for Europe and Canadian right-wingers is basically go, okay, Trump's ambivalent about us, and the left hates us, and Islam hates us, and Russia and China want to abuse us or use us, and the USA is okay with using us, or it's okay with us being strong allies if we can prove ourselves to overcome the left and the globalized alliances and so on. This is the best case scenario. This is the ground situation as far as I can tell, and that is the best case scenario that I can imagine. So yeah, there's a clear path to victory, and it involves a recalibration of our relations with Trump. He might be a blueprint in a way for copying internally to our own countries, in some ways, but he is not a direct ally or total friend to us first. He's America first, after all. And he's doing what he thinks is best in America's interest, whether it's good for his allies or not. He switched to a very hard politics, away from soft power. I think it's partly due to disillusionment with the soft power approach, because it's the fact is that Europe and Canada are kind of disappointments to their own citizens and America's alliance potential. And in essence, what's going to happen is we either have to prove them wrong that we are strong by being right-wing nationalistic and free market and heavily Christian, or we're going to collapse and he's going to pick apart our bones to eat for himself. And that's the good guy ally of ours, not the subvert us and keep us weak forever, Russia and China and Islam and Africa and so on, carrying parasites and subversives. So we're between perdition and the deep blue sea, so praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. We got a culture war to win.